This video will dive into the dark, twisted world of the Manson family cult, led by Charles Manson. A cult that rose in the chaotic 1960s and some believe still exists today, roaming in the shadows of society. So imagine this. At just 17 years old, you get arrested for trying to manipulate someone into giving you all the money they had in the cash register. But it doesn't work. You get frustrated, and out of anger, you pull a gun on them. As you're thrown in the back of a cop car, a disturbing thought creeps into your mind. How did you get here? What got you involved in this mess? A troubled kid with a history of bad decisions, constantly in and out of juvenile detentions, always in trouble with the law, no loving family to support you. You're a lost soul with nowhere to go and no one to care. His life, filled with crimes and manipulation, made him a focal point for American criminal history. Many documentaries, films, and even books have been written about him and the cult that he created, leaving a dark and disturbing legacy. But what makes Charles Manson's cult so chilling? Is it the apocalyptic beliefs, or the drug-induced mind control, or maybe the brutal murders that he engineered? All of these beliefs from the cult are very terrifying, but none of it compares to the disturbing force at the center of it all, Charles Manson himself. Born in Cincinnati, Ohio, Manson spent the majority of his young life desperately fighting to get out of poverty. He became a kid willing to do anything to get ahead, stealing cars, committing petty thefts, and eventually so much worse. By the age 27, Manson had already spent 12 years in prison. This is where he began his networking with criminals and gathering people to begin his cult. He even started experimenting with mind control tactics. Eventually, Manson was released out into the world, and he made his way to California, where he sought out vulnerable people to start influencing and trying to convince them to join his cult. He targeted young people searching for meaning, looking for a sense of belonging. Many of his followers were people that were estranged from their family, just looking for something to be a part of. So, Manson starts slowly building up his following. And what's the first thing he has them do? The exact same things that he went to prison for. From having his members steal for him, to committing armed robbery, and eventually building up to so much worse. But then, things started to take an even darker turn. Manson began to isolate his members on a secluded ranch in California, preaching to them to stay away from any outsiders and keeping them dependent upon one another. And this is where he continued using LSD and other hard drugs to warp their minds and further take control of them. Fear and intimidation started causing the members to follow Manson without question. He could convince them to do anything he asked. Many of the followers also became addicted and dependent on Manson to get their drugs. As time went on, Manson began implementing new beliefs within the group. One of the most terrifying ones being the apocalyptic theory that he called Helter Skelter. He would preach that it would cause a race war to come across the nation and wreak havoc, and that his followers, the family, needed to prepare for this, and that they would play a pivotal role in this uprising. Manson would also implement many strange new beliefs, one being that he would interpret the songs from the Beatles that were popular at the time, and preach that they were messages that he would interpret unto his people, telling them what to do or how to prepare for the future. Near the end of 1969, many of the followers began to ask Manson when this war would begin. They had been preparing and being prophesied about it for many years, but no signs of it was coming. So in a panic, Manson began preparations to fulfill his own prophecy. So Manson starts cultivating this twisted plan of how he would get the race war to start. He devised a plan to send out followers to go out into the city of LA and murder high-profile celebrities, and even found a way to try and pin it onto African Americans, which he believed surely would start the war. And his devoted followers did exactly as they were told. They went out over the course of 2 days and murdered 7 people in cold blood. And by the end, they truly thought they got away with it. But that wasn't the end. Eventually, the trauma and the pressure of these murders started to become too much for these followers. And eventually, a few of them cracked, going to the police. And an investigation took place, leading to the imprisonment of Charles Manson and many of his followers. Charles Manson was even sentenced to death, but shortly after, his sentence was changed to life in prison. Manson ended up spending the rest of his life in prison until he ended up dying of natural causes in 2017. His legacy of manipulation and violence finally comes to an end. So they say. But no one knows for sure. And the crazy part is, this is a true story, you guys. As I've been researching about it, I just could not believe how much they got away with. How absolutely insane this man was. And it's just crazy to think that this actually happened. It's a part of history, you guys. This isn't just some random story from a storybook to try and scare people, right? This really happened. True crime documentaries are absolutely insane to see how dark and twisted the human mind can get. Cults like this one, they prey on the lost and the vulnerable. That's why I think it's truly important to shed light on these and to not forget them, but to remember how dangerous they can be. And many of them still exist to this day. So I hope this video stands out as a warning. Never to follow anyone blindly. You are the creator of your own destiny, and don't let anyone take that away from you. Be careful out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cults like Manson's prey on the lost, the vulnerable, and the searching. They twist minds and break souls. And while Manson's death may have closed the chapter on his reign, the echoes of his influence continue to resonate. Cults still exist today, hidden in plain sight, and they are just as dangerous as ever.